Hello.
Hello, how you doing?
Good. Welcome everyone to this week's weekly drills. This week is hiking boots. So we had a good amount of entries. We had 5 entries and they're all pretty impressive. So let's get into reviewing them. Cool. So first one was by Trash Art. Yeah, a pretty solid entry. So we'll just go through some of the pictures. So yeah, the material work and everything, we're really quite impressed with it. I like that.
Yeah.
So what were your comments on this one? We were speaking about.
Honestly, I think great. I like how they're doing I like the breakdown for the model reference and the presentation ideas. I like the render looks really good. Lighting is looking good. Overall, like the stitching and the leathering look good. The one things I would kind of like comment on were the actual like tread or like the sole of the actual boot feels a little flat for some reason. Like the modeling looks good, but just feels flat compared to like the leather base that you have with the stitching. I can even see if there's a little bit of a scrape on the actual toe of it from that angle. And I would also say like the interior of the shoe feels a little bit like, I don't know if it's supposed to be foam or it looks like it's got cracked leather, and I don't know what that material type's actually supposed to be. It just feels like it's a little off. Other than that, like, be mindful on your. I don't know if this is just me looking at the render incorrectly, but it looks like on the actual laces that I see it looks like the fabric is going against like the length. So what I'm saying, I guess, is that you want to have like it looks like sometimes like it's going up and down. Can you see that in the middle? Like that, yeah. Like it should be going like horizontally, like you're looking at instead of vertically. I see striations going up and down. Do you? Or is it just
I
me?
don't know. I'm not sure whether it's a. Here we go.
Oh wait, that was just the render. Never mind. When you zoomed in.
Yeah.
No,
No.
it's good. Like the leather has like the actual leather of the shoe has a lot of good details, but I do feel like the sole of the shoe feels a little flat compared to the leather. Um, like it just needs a little bit of something, but in general, you did a really good job. The stitching looks great. I like the rookie's like embroiderment of it. It's a nice touch. I like that a lot.
I like the burn in. I
The
think it's
model looks
like,
really good.
yeah, like it's really good. I think just needs a bit, like if we're going to show it at this like front left and center of camera, like would you say it just needs a little bit more, like a little bit more love in the materials and the model? Because like for me it feels like this could be a really good asset on the shoe of a character from a distance, but like as a focal point itself, I think it could be taken a bit further.
Yeah, and I think that's it. Like, and if I'm talking about what should be taken a little bit further, the leather base of the shoe I think looks good. I think the sole just looks a little flat. I think the laces look a little flat, and I think that's what comes into it. And other than that, I think everything else is looking really good. Actually, the interior of the shoe as well,
Yeah,
but the metal leather work is I like the leather and the metal work. I just feel like there's like the laces, like they need something on the edging of them or something like that because it looks too. It's like they just put a little like a curvature mask and then like overlay it or something. Just so there's some discoloration or even some like would there be like what does the reference look like for the laces of this? I guess too.
Yeah. Don't think do we have reference? Yeah, here we go. Yeah, so the pattern.
Yeah.
We need to work on that the pattern a bit more because the pattern on here, like it's a typical sort of braided cord pattern. So the weave of that pattern is quite different to what we have here. So I think that's sort of contributing to it's not contributing to the realism of it, because like the pattern here, you can see it's like going this way and then that way. It's not like an actual weave stitch pattern. So I'd work on getting a proper pattern in there, maybe for the shoelaces, if we're going to be seeing it up close. And then Something's going off a bit funny around here. Like that's something that I noticed. I think your bump is just a bit strong and maybe it's a bit shiny and glossy around here. So seeing a few artifacts, but
yeah. We're just being nitpicky, but I feel like in general you're looking really good, because the more that I look at the reference does have like a pretty flat rubber sole, but I feel like if we could still go in there and still change up the roughness of it, just to give it some discoloration. And it's like, actually when I look at it, I can see kind of another tone of black. If you look at the front, I see that in the front as well, like that one. That would make a big difference, because there is those different like the different toughness of rubber that's usually on those shoes. Yeah, I mean, you did a great job.
All right, no, stoked. Cool. So this one was. So I was really impressed by this one. This one was presented really nicely. So in the visual effects world, we love to see assets composited into a live action plate. It really just shows you've got the eye to be able to to perform that task. It's quite difficult, and it's a really good way to go about it. So in terms of lighting, rendering, compositing, fantastic job. Like it really sits in. It looks and feels like it's sitting in that environment. The light direction feels pretty accurate. It's pretty overcast, so it's looks pretty good. Compositing itself and really getting that to sit in there, it looks brilliant. Looks like a photograph. So I'm really impressed by this one. So.
Yeah, I think, and then that's the thing. It's like when I look at the reference of the shoe, it is missing some elements of it, but if it just feels like it's I would push the stitching just a touch more. When you look at the reference, it looks a little bit off from it. But yeah, like when we look at this, there is some coloration and some elements that make it feel like it's missing it. But in general, it's a good model, and I like the textures a lot. But what I'd be really curious to see, beyond just a little bit more breakdown of the actual modeling and unwrapping, I would like to see a breakdown of the actual compositing and lighting and rendering of this, because it is a great light and rendering. Like the way that this is presented, I like it a lot. I would love to see how you did it. You don't have to give me like step by step, but like for yours, it seems like the cherry on the like on the sundae would be just the presentation of it, the lighting and the compositing and rendering. It just looks great.
Yeah. And like you said, Justin, like if we were to like contrast some of these materials out a bit more, like just with the shot, it would add a lot more interest. Like maybe make the stitching stand out a bit more. I think some of this material is a bit darker in the reference, a little bit more worn, like a suede rather than like a stiff fabric. I think it's. I was going to point to the screen. You can't see me pointing. Some of this like material here is should be like a suede. So I think if we have a look, like it's a little bit more fibrous, and you can see some of those fiber details. And the color,
If I'm looking at the dirt too, just from a distance, the dirt looks like it's too much of a pattern. Have some areas where it's a little chunked up, where it feels like maybe, because right now it just looks like it's a kind of a speckled map on there. I would do a couple areas like the mud just kind of caked down.
And to be like super fussy, like I don't know, my eyes could be off, but like the color of the dirt looks green, whereas the color of the dirt on the floor looks more red. So it might be worth just like hue shifting that dirt on the boot so that it matches the dirt in the plate a bit more. And then obviously like there's grass and stuff in there, so it could take on a bit of a green tinge, but maybe some grass stains on here would be a really good idea to like tie it in that it's been walking through that wet grass. Just some like green stains up here and stuff like that. I think that would really add to it. So, but no, it's really impressive. So,
yeah, great work.
Nice work. All right, next one was this one. So solid render, solid breakdown. No, actually, let's have a look. No, I probably could have done with more of a breakdown, but I mean, we've got a reference which is really good. So you can see the scale and everything. Definitely the model and the texture needs a bit more, like a little bit more love and more attention, but I think it's a really good starting point. You've started to develop those base materials. It's just, I guess, working on the lighting, the presentation, and just on those material properties a little bit more and making sure they're not so even across the whole shoe, I think.
Yeah, and the actual modeling content, when you see the actual the body of the shoe go down to the sole, feels like it's a little bit uneven, feels a little sloppy. There needs to be like a cleaner like definition of the shoe. It needs to be like clearly met between the body and the sole. It just looks like I keep on seeing overlapping pieces, so I work on making sure that's airtight, make it feel like it's tucked in, because usually the shoe has that kind of like tucked in just a little bit, and then it meets the sole. And then the material, like the way that the quality of the texture tile on there looks great. The render, the lighting looks great. I would just like to see more breakdown. And then the biggest thing for me is the sole feels a little boring, if I'm being honest, a little flat, and like it needs something. And the place, like the area where the sole and the actual body of the shoe meet, feels a little bit rough, like a little bit like there's some. But beyond that, like you're doing a good job with like the actual materials and texturings and the patterns and the resolution of it. I think that looks good. It does feel like the fabric that would be in it.
I'm just sort of having a look at the model now, just trying to like understand some of these shapes, because if this is the reference, I mean, this is a lot of pieces of fabric stitched together. I'm sort of just having a look at, you know, the way these fabric pieces stick together, and like some of these pieces on top, I think, feel a little bit unnatural, like they're really thick, sticking out, and the edge is quite round, whereas I would imagine if it was like a fabric, it would be, correct me if I'm wrong, but wouldn't it have more of like a harder edge with like a stitching around the edge, like, and then the edge would be like where the material's been cut, as opposed to like rounded over like that? That's sort of feel.
Yeah, you're right.
But this is all like, you know, getting nitpicky, and this is like the next stage, you know, if you're to take this and keep working. So cool. Two more. Not nice. So again, like brilliant work. So this is the final render. Yeah, incredible.
Yeah, really good work.
Like so many details. Like, yeah, just so many details in the model and the texture. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah, this is really, really well done.
Yeah, so many colors and shapes, and gosh, I think like looking at it, like if I was to provide a bit of feedback, I'm not sure if this doesn't look quite right, like the string, or maybe it's just the lighting. Something doesn't, like it's not sitting right, but I might be wrong. I might be going crazy.
Yeah, it looks. I know what you mean. Like it's super close. It's like, I don't know if the shoelace needs to be a little thicker, and maybe it needs to be pulled a little bit much. But in general, I think it's looking really good. It's just from that specific angle, it looks like it's kind of. It could be just the lighting of it as well. It looks like it's kind of floating on it. But I also think it's the way that it's laced, because it's got like the eyelets the way it is. It makes it look like it's kind of laying on top of it. I think it's just the angle too.
Yeah. But I mean, the material is pretty damn good. The only part of the material I think that looks a bit off is the dirt, because I think the dirt,
shiny.
Yeah, the roughness, like it looks like it's affecting the bump and the color, but the roughness is not changing with it. So, I mean, if we go to the picture, I'm not really sure whether it's meant to be like a wet mud or a dry mud, but something is just feeling a bit off about that dirt, and something, especially with the background as well. Just be really careful not to overcook your bump maps, because this sort of bump and high frequency bump with like a lower roughness, it does pick up this, like, yeah, it just loses the photorealism when you pump up that bump too high. So really pop that right down again, like by at least 50%, to get it looking a lot more natural. And then, yeah, you could probably remove some of this high frequency stuff on there. But yeah, that's sort of my advice on the background. Yeah, I'd love to see these composited into a real life scene as well, to be honest. I know this is probably more orientated to maybe games, but although it, you know, it would hold out CG visual effects. I would love to see it composited in, but yeah. Do you have any more advice for this one?
I think it's really well done. I like I mean, as always, I feel like your breakdowns are very thorough.
Oh yeah.
I like them. I like seeing the process of it, and you know, it's a really great piece. I feel like you're really starting to hit your stride in terms of like nailing the realism, but still having like that little style that you have. So it's going really well.
Yeah, she certainly has a style, doesn't she? It's lovely.
Yeah, it's got like it's feels like it's a little stylized but real, and for this one it's like going a little more into style, like realism, but I can still like, all right, like you could tell when Nora's done something, which is cool. You want to have your style.
Well done. And lastly, we have this one now. So here's a try on this drill. So first time using Substance Painter. So from what I can see, this looks like a viewport render or a viewport snapshot. So you want to be getting this into some sort of render engine, even if it is Substance's own, like, is it V-Ray? Not V-Ray, I-Ray. Just get it into some sort of render, because it does look like it's a viewport render. It's lacking, you know, it's lacking the lighting information. But yeah, it's for your first attempt, well done. Like, I can see you've got some, you know, you've developed some materials. I guess some point of reference is, or some points of feedback just for the model itself. I think the shoelaces, I mean, I don't think the shoelaces would naturally sit upright like that. They'd probably be a little bit more floppy in the real world. And then some of the stitching does feel a bit unnatural, like it's a little bit like up and down. So you'd probably want to be getting that a little bit more machine made, you know, a bit finer stitches and a little bit more thought gone into where they should be placed. It feels a little bit random at the moment, you know, like ooh around the place. So and some of the material work, just keep working close to your reference. Have your reference image next to you as you're working. Unfortunately, we can't see any sort of breakdown or reference image, so I can't compare to a reference. So next time, if you do enter the rookies, the weekly drills, please pop in a reference and just a small breakdown as to how you did it. It doesn't have to be crazy, but even just some, just a small explanation, what software you use, what you were, you know, what you were aiming towards, whether you modeled, how you modeled this, what program you used, things like that would be really helpful. Do you have any more feedback on this one? Whoa, our viewers just jumped up to 15. What happened?
I would say the same. You know, it's very hard, and then like obviously since we just had the rookies contest and like again rookies drills, for those of you who are doing the rookies contest still and any of our future contests, because we do more contests throughout the year and a lot of them are going to be pretty cool. We're going to have some big ones coming up, but using the rookie drills is not only like something to have fun with, but as practice. And you need to show your reference. You need to show the process, because no one's going to be hiring you just for your tech skills. They're going to be hiring you for your problem solving skills. And that's really what the breakdowns and process stuff does. It lets us see how you're thinking and how you attack a actual problem. And then, you know, based on the reference, we've seen some people take their shoes and like they're clean reference, but we put them laying in the grass, or I put them like they're getting ready to walk. Like, it's interesting to see how each person decides to present and how they start to add little details on it. So that speaks to you wanting to add character and story to what you're doing. And that just basically says to someone like myself and Christina, like if we were to hire you at a studio and we were to give you content, we'd feel 100% confident that you know how to do it, but also that you would be thinking not just how do I make this and actually make it feel like it's part of the scene.
100%. Like that breakdown is so important, because we need to know that you understand what you're doing as well. It can sometimes like be a bit easy. You can, like, a lot of people can produce a pretty image, but how you've made that image. You know, we need to know, have you hidden a lot of it in compositing, or have you done most of it in lighting? Like, what software did you use? Is it, you know, been painted over? Is it been, you know, so there's just, yeah, so many different components. And if you can show us that you understand what you're doing, it really puts you a step above everyone else, because being a good artist is one thing, like having the eye for detail, but, you know, having that technical ability and understanding is just so important. It shows you're sort of motivated and interested in the craft, beyond just creating pretty things as well. So yeah. All right, so do you want to do winners, Justin?
Sure. I'm leaning towards, I'm a really big fan of what Nor did with the shoes. I feel like it's not just the execution of like the modeling and texturing, it's just really good presentation, breakdown, just all around. It's a solid entry.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, in terms of like the hiking boot itself, it's like the most detailed, you know, presented shoe. There is so much going on, so many materials, and it does feel really accurate and realistic. Yes. So first place.
Yeah.
Thinking second place, I'd like to give this one.
It's just it's a solid model in the render and lighting compositing. It just looks real.
It's like, again, like especially that, like this one is, I would say, better presented. It probably like it needs more work with the shoe itself, but in terms of presentation, incredible work. I would really love to see the breakdown of lighting and compositing, but no, it's solid entry. Well done. So second place, and third would like to give to this one.
Yeah, really, really, really well done. You know, I feel like it's almost there. There's something about that's making some of the textures feel a little flat. And I think that might be messing with the roughness maps. And even like taking something then where the shoe is actually like a darker rubber like that. Don't ever make something pure black, even if it might be that way in reference, because then it absorbs the lighting. Just make it just a couple shades lighter. And then think about adding that like little mill strip that changes the shading of the rubber sole as well, because it breaks it up. And then, you know, what Christina said about the actual stitching pattern of the laces as well. But it's you know, you're super close. I'd say you're like 90% there.
Yeah, I must say, I love these little like clovers on the floor.
Yeah.
It's so cute. I would
love to see how you made that composite out of that stuff as well. I know it's from a shoe, but it's like sometimes when you guys get to these points, it's like show us the breakdown of that as well, because you did a really good job.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. It looks like the floor is a texture, it's like, it almost looks like it's modeled, like really like great work. It does look like it could be like a bark texture. But no, I'm really, really digging it. Great work. All right. Well, there you go. All right. Well done, everyone. Really excited to see your work. So I'm going to be off for a few weeks. I'm moving to Sydney, which is like really scary, but also really exciting. So for the next couple of weeks, it will be you and Alan, Justin, is that right?
Me and Alan, or me and someone else. But are you allowed to tell them what you're doing there?
Yeah, so I'm off to ILM, Industrial Light and Magic. It's the first big step or big move away from Adelaide. So I am super stoked, nervous, but also just should be good. I've got to find a place to live, which is the most pressing thing at the moment.
Things to think about when you guys are getting your jobs is stuff like that. But
awesome. Exactly. But no, it's going to be, I'm so excited. So I'll leave on Sunday, and I'm going to be spending the next year. Oh, someone said congrats. I'm spending the next year in Sydney. So my background won't be as pretty. I'll have to put some fairy lights up in my new like tiny shoebox apartment.
Yeah, that worked great.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining in. We had a few people online today, which was wicked.
Yeah. Cool. Well, you have a lovely night, and thank you everyone for popping on and doing the challenge. And then we'll see you next week, and it'll be me and Alan or Mac or a guest. We'll see you.
All right, guys. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.